Have you ever laid still in the dark, right next to the woman you love, but didn't dare to touch her? Not because you didn't want to, but because you were afraid you'd disappoint her. I'm Dr. Sam Wells, and today I want to sit with you, to speak the words so many men over 60 have carried in silence, unable to say out loud. I've looked into the eyes of hundreds of men, strong, wise, accomplished, who glance away when this subject comes up. Not because they don't care, but because they've grown used to suffering quietly. They hide their pain behind small jokes, their fear behind polite nods and lines like, "It's fine, I'm used to it." But the truth is, some nights, they turn their backs to the woman they love. Not because they've stopped loving her, but because they're scared. Scared they're no longer enough. Scared of the look of disappointment in her eyes. The same eyes that once saw them as unshakable. Scared of being compared, not to anyone else, but to the man they were 30 years ago. If your heart clenched even a little as you read those words, then you're not alone. You're in the right place. This is for you. To be seen, to be understood, and to begin healing through truth. The truth is, you still deserve love, and you can still learn how to love again, in a new way. Follow Wellness Unfolds. If you want more honest conversations made for men at an age where people assume silence is normal, there's no judgment. Only compassion and real solutions. Let's begin, not to go back in time, but to understand the now and move forward from it. 1. The fear of letting her down. His name is Richard, 68, a widower for 5 years, finally entering a new relationship after many hesitations. In our first session, he said something that left me quiet for a long moment. I'd rather sit still and watch her sleep than try and see her disappointed. He didn't lack desire. He didn't lack love. He was simply afraid. A very masculine fear, but one rarely spoken. Many men over 60 were once heads of households, leaders at work, pillars of strength. But in the bedroom, when the lights dim, they feel lost in their own bodies. What if I can't stay hard? What if she goes silent because she's not satisfied? These questions aren't said out loud, but they play on repeat in their minds, slowly pushing them away from the woman they love. I've seen men come into my office with their wives, smiling, friendly. But the moment I ask to speak to the husband alone, the first thing he says is, "Doctor, I feel like I've lost part of what made me a man." The fear of letting her down isn't just about performance. It's a hit to the core of a man's pride, to something we're taught from boyhood. A man should be strong, at work, in life, and in bed. But no one teaches us how to face the moments when we're no longer strong in the same way. So men pull back. They stay silent instead of reaching out. They pretend to sleep instead of offering a warm embrace. Not because they've stopped loving, but because they're terrified they're no longer enough to make her happy. But what if she's lying there? 2. Waiting for you to turn toward her, not to prove anything, but simply to hold her. What if she doesn't need perfect, just present? We can't rewind time, but we can learn a new way to be close. Gentle, slower, without pressure. Sometimes, the most powerful gesture is not the act itself, but the hand that stays longer, the eye that listens, the hug that asks for nothing. Medically speaking, lower testosterone is completely normal after 60, your body slows down. Erections are less firm. Recovery takes longer, but that does not mean you've failed. The real failure only happens when you believe you have nothing left to offer but a physical reaction. In reality, I've seen many couples in their 60s rediscover intimacy, not as a performance, but as an honest, slow dance between two souls. When the pressure disappears, pleasure often returns. You don't have to be the man you were 30 years ago. You just need to be the man you are now. Present, real, and willing. And if you're still afraid, speak up. To your partner, to your doctor, to yourself. Because love isn't about satisfying the other person. It's about making them feel seen, chosen, and safe. Let love at this age begin again. Not with perfection, but with truth. And the truth is, you still have so much to give. If you feel like you're not enough anymore, maybe it's time to redefine what enough means. Because what she may need most is the heart you've been hiding. 2. Comparing yourself to the man you used to be. He walked into my office with a polite smile, but his eyes seemed to be searching. Maybe for me, or maybe for the man he once was. When I asked what was on his mind, he looked down at his hands, slightly trembling, and said, "I used to be the man my wife could turn on with just a touch. Now, I pretend to sleep so I don't have to see that look in her eyes." Picture this. You stand in front of the mirror each morning. Same mirror, same bathroom, same light across your face. But the man in the reflection isn't who you remember. Not the man with the firm chest, thick hair, bright eyes, and commanding voice. Now it's a softer belly, thinner hair, slower reaction time. And you start to remember and compare. Comparison is human. But for many men, it becomes a chain, not comparison to others, but to themselves. And that's a battle no one ever wins. After 60, the male body changes. Testosterone, the sex hormone, declines steadily from age 40, blood vessels become less flexible, slowing circulation to key areas. Many medications for blood pressure, diabetes, or depression also affect sexual performance. And then there's the emotional weight. Stress, anxiety, shame, making everything harder. It's not your fault. It's biology. But the painful part is this. While the body changes, many men's standards for themselves do not. They still believe they must be strong like they were at 30. They still think being a man means lasting long, performing often, staying hard. And when the body doesn't meet those standards, they go quiet, withdraw, or live in private defeat. One patient, 74, once led a battalion. Now, he said, just thinking about being close to my wife makes me nervous. I asked, because you're afraid you won't be able to? He nodded, then said something I'll never forget. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid I'm no longer the man she once loved. Have you ever felt like that? If so, hear me clearly. You don't need to be the man you were 30 years ago. You need to learn how to love the man you are now. The one who's lived, felt, and still shows up every day. That man still matters. He is still attractive. He still deserves love in a different way, one that doesn't require him to prove anything. Closeness now doesn't live in speed or performance. It lives in listening eyes, in slower conversations, in a longer hug, in the honesty of sharing what's real. When you let go of old expectations, you open the door to a new kind of intimacy, one with no pressure, no comparisons, and no shame. Instead of looking in the mirror and searching for the old you, look deeper. You might find a man who's carried great burdens, a man who has protected, provided, endured, and who is still here, still willing to love, still longing to be loved. And trust me, that is more beautiful than any muscle or charm you once had. 3. Not knowing what you enjoy anymore. I once asked a patient, a 68-year-old man, widowed after 40 years of marriage, a simple question. Where do you most like to be touched? He paused, then gave a quiet smile and said, I don't know. My wife liked having her back rubbed, so I always did that for her. But me, since I was young, I've always been the one doing. I never stopped to ask myself what I needed. Have you ever felt like that? That you've spent a lifetime being the one who pleases, who leads, who anticipates, but never once asked yourself, what about me? What do I like? Many men after 60 experience a strange emptiness, not because desire is gone, but because the connection to their own body and feelings has faded. When you've spent decades putting others first, your wife, your kids, your work, you slowly push yourself to the back, and when all of that quiets down, the children grown, the job retired, your partner changing, you find yourself unsure how to come home to yourself. Ask yourself, honestly, when was the last time you felt wanted? Not out of duty, but because someone looked at you with warmth and said, I want you, not as a husband, a father, or a provider, but simply because you are you. Desire isn't just physical. It's the feeling that someone sees you, listens to you, and wants to be close. Not for what you do, but for who you are. But to feel that again, you first have to rediscover yourself. What kind of touch do you like? How do you enjoy being held? What scents make you feel safe or excited? What words do you like to say or hear in moments of stillness? Maybe these questions feel strange, but true intimacy begins with knowing who you are, what you need, and not being afraid to say it. I once worked with a couple in their 70s. They came in saying they didn't feel close anymore. When I asked the husband, do you still feel desire? He said, yes, but I don't know where to begin. I feel like I've forgotten how to love. So we started again, gently, with small questions about emotion, memory, sensation, and slowly, he remembered. He liked kisses on his ear. He loved the scent of her hair after a shower. He missed her holding his hand during movies. Rediscovering yourself doesn't require noise or speed. It's like returning to an old garden you'd forgotten and realizing it's still beautiful. If you take the time to step in, you don't need to be like anyone else. You don't need to be who you were 30 years ago. You just need to be honest with the man you are today. And when you have the courage to say, I want, I like, I feel happy that's when something inside you wakes up. Not loudly, but powerfully. Because desire doesn't die. It simply waits for you to remember the way back. 4. Mistaking fatigue for lost desire. A 72-year-old man once sat across from me with a heavy look in his eyes. He said, I think I've lost my desire. Doctor, I don't feel anything anymore. I don't want anything. And it makes me feel like I've lost part of my manhood. I asked him, how many hours do you sleep each night? Maybe 4. I wake up a lot. Are you on any medications? Yes, for diabetes and blood pressure. What do you eat in the morning? Usually just coffee, to stay awake. I smiled gently and said, you haven't lost desire. Your body is just exhausted. This is what I want to say to you. And to every man over 60 quietly carrying this fear inside. Lack of desire is not always about age. Very often, it's your body crying out, I'm tired, I need rest, I need nourishment, I need care. Testosterone, the hormone connected to male libido, starts declining around 30 and more noticeably after 60. But decline isn't disappearance. What makes things worse is stress, poor sleep, unhealthy eating, and medications for chronic conditions like hypertension or diabetes. One Harvard study found that sleep-deprived men had 15% lower morning testosterone. Another from Mayo Clinic showed that improving sleep quality, 7-8 hours a night, significantly increased desire after just a few weeks. So before you say, I've lost it, ask yourself, am I eating enough real, nourishing food? Am I sleeping well and waking up rested? Am I carrying too much stress about money, family, or health? And forgetting to care for myself. Desire isn't just about hormones. It's a full body connection between your mind, your body, and your spirit. When one part is drained, desire fades, but the good news is you can bring it back with small steps. I've seen many men transform with just 3 changes: getting 7 hours of sleep, eating protein, vegetables, and healthy fats, taking a 20-minute walk in the morning sunlight. After 1 month, a man who once said, I think I'm done, returned to my clinic and smiled. Not only do I feel better, I actually want to be close again. My body feels alive. You see, you don't need pills to force a response. You don't need to fake being fine. What you need is to look at your body like an old friend. A friend who's walked with you for 70 years, and is now whispering, I'm tired. Please care for me. Let me rest. Love me a little. And I'll bring back the life you thought you lost. Be gentle with yourself. Because no one truly loses desire. Sometimes it's just fatigue. And the silence that comes from forgetting how to listen. 5. No one teaches you how to love at 70, but you can still learn. One Monday morning, I saw Mr. John again, a 74-year-old patient during a routine checkup. This time, he brought his wife. They sat together, hands gently clasped, eyes soft with kindness. After the exam, he turned to me and said, You know, Doc, we don't do much. Just lie next to each other, hold hands, say a few quiet words. But it feels more intimate than anything I've known before. That moment struck me deeply. No one teaches us how to love when we're old. There's no class that says, here's how you find your way back to emotion after grief. Here's what to do when you lie next to your partner in silence, not knowing what to say. No book tells you how to begin again when your body has changed, but your heart still longs for a tender touch. But I'm here to tell you, and every man who carries that quiet ache, you are allowed to learn again, not to become the man you once were, but to become close again in a new way, gentler, slower, more heartfelt. Intimacy at 70 doesn't have to mean making love as we used to define it. It can be an afternoon spent side by side, a hand resting gently on another, a simple question, how are you feeling today? A longer than usual hug, a gaze that lingers, saying, you still matter to me. Sex at this age is no longer about proving something. It's about being present. I remember a widower once told me, for 40 years, I was the one to initiate, to lead, to protect. But after she passed, I realized I never stopped to ask what I truly wanted from closeness. I was always doing, rarely feeling. Now, I'm learning. And I wish I'd started sooner. Do you see? In our youth, we love with passion. As we age, we learn to love with presence. A trembling hand offered sincerely is more beautiful than 1,000 practiced moves without feeling. If you're 70 and feel lost in the world of intimacy, don't blame yourself. Don't believe it's too late. No one taught you how to love at this stage, but you can be the one to begin. Let yourself be awkward, imperfect, or silent, as long as your heart remains open. Because in the end, you don't need to prove anything. You just need to show up sincerely, warmly. And sometimes, that alone is more than enough for a life full of love. If anything I shared made you feel even a little lighter inside, please subscribe and share this video with a man you care about. Maybe he's been silent too, not because he doesn't care, but simply because no one has ever gently asked him these questions. A small act from you might touch a heart that's been quietly hiding. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I just want you to know this: you are not broken, not outdated, and never wrong for still wanting to be loved. Not just physically, but through a deep connection that touches the soul. I've seen so many men over 60 walk into my clinic with quiet eyes. It's not that they've stopped feeling, it's that they haven't dared to admit they too want to be cared for. They long for closeness, even if it's just a knowing glance or an unhurried touch. And I want to say this to you, whoever is listening right now, you absolutely can begin again. Talk to a doctor you trust. Speak with your partner. Whether you've been together 40 years or just a few months, pay attention to your body. Notice what's changing, and care for yourself the way you once cared for everyone else. Don't let silence swallow the most beautiful parts of your life. Because at any age, you deserve a kind of love that doesn't judge a love where you can just be you, be seen, be heard, and be touched with both hands and heart. You don't need to be young again to be loved. You just need to be seen as a man who is still alive, still feeling, and still worthy. Closeness isn't just for the young. It's deeply human and it belongs to every age. Old age doesn't lock your heart, but you must be brave enough to open it, little by little, with honesty and gentleness for yourself. Start with something small. A conversation with your partner, with yourself, or with someone watching this video with you. And if you're quietly reflecting right now, leave a comment below. I'm still me at 60, 70, or 80. I read every word, and I'll always be here with you. Click subscribe and share this video with the men you care about. Maybe they're silent too, simply because no one has asked with enough kindness. I'm Dr. Sam Wells. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll talk about what truly matters.